Ever dreamt of a job where your office is out on the open ocean? And we're not just talking about, sailing off into the sunset, but like actually teaching others to command the waves as
Yeah.
a maritime instructor.
It's definitely a career path that's, a lot more than meets the eye.
For sure. And you've given us some really interesting stuff from RoleCatcher, including a career guide, an interview guide, and even info about, get this, their AI platform. So should we dive into how to just ace that maritime instructor interview?
Let's set sail.
All right. So the first thing that I noticed from the career guide is it's not always smooth sailing, is it? This job, it looks like it comes with some pretty intense conditions.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you could be training on a ship that's rocking, like in the middle of a storm.
Right.
It's a tough environment. You need a certain level of, grit, adaptability.
I bet. Makes you really appreciate those calm, sunny days out on the water even more. Right?
Yeah.
But speaking of demanding, let's get into some of those interview questions, because I have a feeling that they're going to test a lot more than just our sea legs. How about we start with this one? What experience do you have in the maritime industry?
Okay. So it sounds super simple at first, right?
Right.
But it's actually your chance to really, let your passion shine through. Prove you're not just there for the
view.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not enough to just say, like, I love boats.
No, definitely not. Think about your experiences. Have you worked as a deckhand? Have you, crewed on different types of vessels, maybe even volunteered for like a sea rescue organization?
Yeah.
Things like that. Those hands-on experiences, you really want to highlight those.
Yeah.
Because that shows your genuine interest and commitment.
It's like painting a picture almost of your journey in this world, right?
Exactly.
In the maritime world.
And speaking of standing out, the career guide mentioned certain certifications that are like gold stars in this field.
Oh, for sure. Things like the USCG Merchant Mariner credential.
Yeah. STCW certifications.
Right.
Having these shows a potential employer that you've gone the extra nautical mile and that you've invested in your own professional development.
It shows you're serious, right?
Yeah.
And this brings us to a really important point. Knowing your stuff. RoleCatcher's AI can actually look at job descriptions and highlight like the exact certifications that you need to really be competitive.
It's really amazing. It's like having a personal assistant just for your career, making sure you've got everything in order,
Right.
all your ducks in a row.
I love that. Okay, let's go to a question that I think a lot of people would probably stumble on. How do you ensure that your training methods are actually effective?
Okay, so this is where you really show your teaching skills. Think about it this way. How would you explain, like, complex navigation to someone who's literally never even been on a boat?
Right.
Like, how would you break it down?
Yeah. You'd probably want to use a mix of like visual aids, hands-on stuff, and then maybe even some real-life scenarios, right?
Yeah, exactly. And don't be afraid to talk about the specific techniques that you use.
Right.
Do you do simulations? How about practical tests?
Right.
Highlighting details like that, it shows that you're able to engage different learning styles and actually measure progress, effectively.
Yeah. And this is another area where I feel like RoleCatcher's AI could be really, really helpful.
Oh, totally. You can practice answering this question on their platform, and then their AI will actually look at your response. And it gives you feedback that's tailored to what maritime instructor roles are looking for, which is really cool.
So it's like having a personal coach almost.
Yeah.
Helping you craft the perfect answer.
Exactly.
I like that a lot.
Okay.
Let's look at a question that could be kind of tricky, I think. Can you describe a time you had to deal with a difficult trainee?
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet everyone listening just felt a shiver down their spine.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all had to deal with those kind of challenging personalities at some point, right?
So how do you answer this without, throwing anyone under the bus?
Yeah, it's tricky. So the key here is to show that you can stay calm when things get tough.
Right.
And you can find solutions that actually work instead of dwelling on how negative the trainee was being, Focus on what you actually did to handle it. What steps did you take?
So let's say you had a trainee who was constantly questioning everything you say and just kind of disrupting the flow of the class. What would you do?
Okay, so instead of getting defensive, you could say something like, I took the trainee aside, had a one-on-one conversation just to understand where they were coming from and to, really reiterate how important those safety protocols are.
Right.
we work together to find a way for them to ask their questions, respectfully.
So it shows that you're not afraid to, like, address the issue head on,
Yeah.
but also that you're really committed to making it a positive learning experience for everyone.
Exactly.
And, like, this approach totally aligns with what the career guide said about staying professional and, like, putting safety first.
Yes. Always. Always. It's all about showing those core values.
Okay. So far, so good, I think.
Oh.
How about we switch gears a little bit and talk about a question that focuses on your adaptability? How would you answer this one?
Yeah.
Can you describe a time when you had to, like, adapt your training style to fit a trainee's specific learning style?
Okay. This is where those different learning styles we talked about earlier, they really come into play.
Right.
Because, not everyone's going to learn best by listening to you, lecture.
Of course.
Some people are visual learners. Some people, they need to, like, actually do the thing.
Right. They need that hands-on.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you show that you can adapt in an interview?
Think back to a specific time where you had to, like, really change things up for someone. Maybe you started using more diagrams.
Okay.
Or visual aids for someone who just wasn't getting the verbal instructions. Or maybe you gave someone extra time for hands-on practice because they learn best by doing...
So it's about showing that you're paying attention.
Yeah.
That you can be flexible.
Absolutely. You're observant, you're responsive to those individual needs, you're adjusting your sails to catch the wind.
I like that. All right. So let's
steer toward a question that really gets at your commitment to, staying current. In the maritime world, how would you answer this? How do you stay up to date with changes in maritime regulations and safety procedures?
Okay, so this is where those industry magazines that you mentioned would be good, right?
Yeah, they're a good start for sure. But interviewers, they're looking for a bit more. They want to see, like, real engagement.
Okay.
Think about, like, professional development courses, industry conferences, or even, like, those online forums where you can connect with other people in the field and just, like, exchange ideas.
So instead of just saying, oh, I read about it online,
Uh-huh.
I could be like, I actually just took this course on the latest safety protocols, or I went to this conference about new navigation technology.
Exactly. That's what they want to hear.
Got it.
It shows that you're, like, actively learning, staying ahead of the game.
Right.
And, this actually ties back to what we were saying about certifications.
Right.
If you mention how you keep those credentials up to date,
Yeah.
that shows real commitment to your own growth professionally.
It's all connected. I see.
Yeah, it all ties together.
Okay. So let's chart a course for another one that might be a little rough. Can you describe a time when you had to adapt your training program to fit the needs of a specific company or client?
Okay, yeah. So this one is all about being flexible, having that client-centric approach.
Sure.
Because a training program for, like, a cruise line, it's going to look totally different from one designed for a cargo company.
Yeah, for sure. Different needs, right?
Totally. So you need to show them that you can tailor your teaching to what they need.
Right.
Like, yeah, for a cruise line, you'd really emphasize things like passenger safety,
Right.
emergency procedures.
Makes sense.
Whereas with cargo, it might be more about handling the cargo itself, navigation.
Right. So don't be afraid to get, like, really specific here. Like, mention the changes you made to the actual curriculum or even the equipment.
Exactly. Don't be vague. The interview guide actually suggests mentioning, like, the training schedule.
Oh, okay.
Did you change that up? Things like that.
Interesting. So it's all about proving you can, like, adjust your compass to get to that destination.
Yeah.
Even if the winds change on you, right?
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
All right. So let's talk about keeping those trainees, engaged and motivated.
Yeah.
How would you answer this? How do you motivate trainees to actually participate in the program?
This is where your own enthusiasm is key,
Yeah.
It's enthusiasm. It's contagious, right?
Totally. Yeah.
The interviewer wants to see that you're not just, like, going through the motions,
Right.
that you really love to teach, and you can get people excited about learning.
Yeah.
So this would be the perfect time to, like, tell a story about a time you used some kind of, like, hands-on activity or maybe a real-life scenario that really got people fired up about learning.
Yeah.
Remember what the career guide said about practical experience?
Right.
This is how you bring that to life.
Okay. I like that.
And you know what else? Don't be afraid to talk about how you communicate.
Oh, yeah.
Are you someone who really encourages questions? Do you use humor?
Yeah. Were you serious in the classroom or?
Right. Things like that. It just shows you can connect with people on a personal level.
Right. Building that rapport, right?
Exactly. You want people to feel comfortable asking questions, making mistakes even.
Speaking of which, let's tackle this question. How do you handle a situation where a trainee just isn't meeting the performance standards?
Ooh, okay. So this is tough because you need to find that balance between empathy and, being firm.
Right.
Because your job is to help everyone succeed,
Right.
even the ones who are struggling.
So no throwing them overboard if they can't tie a knot?
Probably not the best approach, no.
Okay, good to know.
Start by just talking to them one-on-one.
Okay.
Just try to understand, what's going on? Are they stressed out about something? Is it the way you're teaching that's not clicking? Once you know the problem, you can actually work together to find a solution.
Right, so maybe you offer some extra help.
Yeah, like tutoring, maybe.
Adjust the training schedule, or even, suggest different resources they could look at.
Exactly. It's about being more than just an instructor.
Right, yeah. Like a mentor, almost.
Yes.
Okay. I like that.
So how about we raise the anchor on this part of the discussion,
Okay.
and we move on to a question that's about the lasting impact of your teaching.
You mean making sure the information actually sticks?
Exactly, because saying I make them take good notes,
Right.
it's not going to impress anyone.
No, definitely not. So how do you answer that then?
Well, think about it. How do you learn best?
For me, it's definitely hands-on, real-world examples, and maybe a few quizzes along the way,
Yeah.
just to make sure I'm getting it.
You've got it. Instead of just lecturing at people, try to bring in those practical exercises.
Oh.
Case studies, group discussions, anything that gets them involved.
So it's kind of like if you were building a ship, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't just hand someone a blueprint and be like, okay, go sail it. You'd walk them through the entire thing,
Yeah.
from start to finish.
Yeah, and it shows you're invested, in their success,
Yeah.
not just for that one training session.
Right, long term.
Exactly. You're not just teaching them to sail, you're teaching them to navigate.
I like that a lot. Okay, so speaking of navigation, you mentioned earlier that RoleCatcher goes beyond just the interview prep stuff.
Mhm.
I'm really interested in their database of employers and how that connects to what the career guide was saying about networking.
Yeah, it's a really cool feature. It's like having, a first mate for your career journey.
Like that.
RoleCatcher, it actually helps you manage all your contacts, track your interactions,
Oh, wow.
helps you find new leads. It's great.
So it's not just about finding any job, it's about building that whole roadmap for your career, which I really like.
Yeah, exactly. And having those connections, it can really make all the difference, whether you're looking for a job right now or you're just kind of keeping your options open.
Right, right. Okay, before we wrap up this deep dive, I got to ask about something that I found really interesting in the career guide.
Mhm.
They mentioned a few job titles that are kind of related to maritime instruction,
Mhm.
but they're not what you'd expect, like air traffic instructor and occupational railway instructor.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It just goes to show you the skills that you learn as a maritime instructor, they're really valuable. And you can use them in a lot of different fields. The core stuff, like clear communication, knowing safety protocols, being able to adapt to different learning styles, those are all super important, no matter what you're teaching.
It makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
Because whether you're guiding a ship through a storm or you're landing a plane, you need clear instructions.
Right.
You need a calm demeanor.
Exactly. And being able to break down complex information,
Yeah.
make easy to understand, that's huge no matter what.
I've learned so much in this deep dive about the different things you can do in this field. It's really cool. Becoming a maritime instructor, it's obviously about more than just knowing how to tie knots, right? And navigating by the stars. It's about passion, it's about being able to adapt, and it's about really wanting to share what you know with other people.
Totally. And remember, with the help of RoleCatcher and a little bit of prep work, you'll be in great shape. You'll be ready to answer those interview questions with confidence, and you can chart a course for a really, really rewarding career.
Out on the open seas. Or maybe in the skies. Or on the rails, who knows?
Exactly. The possibilities are endless.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Well said. To all of our listeners out there, if you've ever dreamt of a career where every day is different, remember, even a journey of 1,000 nautical miles, it all starts with that first step.
That's right.
And hey, maybe a little help from RoleCatcher doesn't hurt either.
There you go.
Until next time, fair winds and following seas.
See you next time.